Here comes Wooster.
Now they got numbers.
It's Williams. Extra pass to Jawan Gary. And Dana Altman and Oregon need a timeout. Nebraska has brought the juice on the road.
Day by day. We get better and better. We get better and better. So we can't beat beat. We can't beat beat. Won't beat beat. Won't beat beat.
Hey, everybody. Welcome in to Day by Day. I'm James. I'm with Andrew, and I am with Mike. How are you guys doing?
Great. Another week. Welcome back.
Another
Lots
week.
to talk about.
My goodness.
Yeah.
We're going to get into Husker basketball. Andrew's going to Husker basketball this week. A lot going on in football. John Cook retired this week. We got a whole lot to talk about, so we'll get into it. First, as always, you can find us on characterchronicles.com, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, all the places. Give us a like if you think Nebraska will make it into the tournament as an at-large bid. At this point, I'm back on the bandwagon. I think they're in. I think they're going to be in. It's an emotional roller coaster. Subscribe to the show, comment, helps people find us, helps get the word out there about the show. So, all right, let's get into it. Let's start with Husker basketball. Big week, 2-0. Bryce Williams, co-AP Player of the Week, which is incredible. Big Ten Player of the Week for the second week this year. I think he's only the second Husker to ever do that. So we were just talking before we hit record how emotional the game was. Watching it, living and dying on every bucket. Felt like nobody went on a huge run. It was pretty tight the whole time. So I'm curious what you guys thought as you were actually, we didn't talk too much last week about Oregon because they were on a pretty good skid. Did you guys even think they had a chance to win the game?
I tell you what. Oh, go ahead, Andrew. Go ahead.
I mean, yeah, I think going into it, I don't know. I think after we talked even last week, felt optimistic after the Illinois game that we'd have a shot. And I don't know. I've been so busy.
You're the eternal optimist, though. Like
yeah.
We could go up against the Miami Heat with LeBron, and you would think we'd have a shot.
No, but I like some weeks I get so busy I don't even think about it. It's like, oh, the game's tonight, so I turn it on. We were already delayed, so we had to join it a little bit late because here on the West Coast, it always kind of meshes with dinner time and whatnot. So, kind of got into it, and it's like, hey, we're hanging in there, and yeah, there wasn't really a whole lot of thought going into the game. It was tense during the game because I feel like that game and Illinois, where it felt like we were in control the entire time, led the entire time, but yet it could slip away at any moment, and Illinois almost did. This one kind of had that same feeling. So it's just it's a weird Husker team where they just aren't finishing halves well. You feel like they're giving up the lead versus kind of stepping on the pedal and increasing the lead to kind of cruise comfortably. They did that early, but lately these wins just feel a little more stressful, but very enjoyable to watch. So,
Mike, your thoughts?
I think I mentioned this the first time I was on with you guys. I said something along the lines of, I think this team has like a very low floor and a high ceiling type of thing. Mm-hmm. And, I just, like you don't know what you're going to get, but I wasn't sure that the ceiling was going to be, we could go and beat 2 ranked teams back-to-back games, which makes me a little bit worried about tomorrow night. I hope they don't have a little bit of a hangover going into that after 2 emotional wins, but I think my gut tells me that this is going to be kind of like a momentum type of team. Like we had that 6-game losing skid where it felt like we were in a hitting slump. And now it feels like they're playing with confidence. They've kind of figured out their identity on offense, on where guys fit in. I think we want to talk about that here in a little bit, but I've seen it more and more these last 2 games where guys are trying to get to the hoop and we're not settling for bad 3-point jump shots. We're not settling for bad jumpers. They're not settling for anything offensively, and it showed. And I think that's a big reason why we've had the success this past week that we had.
Yeah.
I agree. I want to talk Oregon for a second. When I watched them, I was like, who is going to score for Oregon? That's what I felt like I actually thought as the game was going on, I wasn't as stressed out as you maybe sounded like you were, Andrew, because I was like, I don't know that Oregon is going to have a chance on offense. And I don't know if who I was interacting with on Twitter, but I said something like, unless they get hot from three, they're just not going to be able to generate enough offense.
Yep.
Which surprised me, honestly. I hadn't watched Oregon before, probably because most of their games start at 9:30, which is when Nebraska is going to play here on Wednesday. So yeah, I was surprised at their lack of offense, which made me feel really good. And to your point, Mike, when Nebraska started getting to the bucket, like it felt like every time down, Jawan or Bryce could get to the hoop at will. And when they could do that, I mean, I wouldn't say, oh, you're top 25 team in the country, but I'd say when they do that, they're a top 30, 40 team in the country, and they could probably hang with most teams if they play that way.
So am I spoiled for thinking we should be like, that game felt like we should have cruised to a 15-point win though. And the game was still within hand, 3 minutes to go, 2 minutes to go. Like, is that just me not giving enough credit to Oregon, to a Big Ten team on the road? Or is maybe there just something that makes you nervous?
They were cold. They hit some threes. They just didn't get hot, right? I think it felt like every time Nebraska got up by 9, Oregon would go on maybe like a 4 or 5 point run.
Yeah.
And then Nebraska would go on a 4-0 run. And then Oregon just couldn't close the gap, right? I think they got it to 3 at one point, and then we hit a couple important buckets, and
also we shot sub 25% from 3. I'm pretty sure. We could have easily scored 90. That was a horrendous 3-point shooting night, and they still put up 77 points. So
I was so wired after the game. I couldn't go to bed. And so I'm watching highlights from last year's team. And I think I watched the Indiana game in the Big Ten tournament. And I think I watched Ohio State, because that was the game Mast scored like 34 points.
Yeah.
What I noticed about last year's team is at any moment, you had 4 or 5 guys on the floor who could shoot. You'd have Casey, Mast, Bryce, CJ, Jamarcus Lawrence. Like, these guys could shoot from anywhere on the floor. And you don't have that this year. You just don't have it. And so I'm curious. I want to ask you guys, we have a lot of older players. We got guys with some experience in terms of just playing a lot of basketball, playing in the postseason. However, man, if they get to the dance, is this a better coaching job this year for Fred than last year? Given that, I just think talent, like raw talent wise, shooting wise, they could light it up because of who they had on the floor, and you just don't have that.
Yeah, I think so, and especially if you factor in a 6-game losing streak in the middle of the season, I think that there's something to be said there about the coaching to be able to not lose the team, to rally them, to bring them around, make the adjustments that you need.
Sure.
That would be impressive too. Whereas last year, undefeated at home, this year not so much. So, different type of season, getting it done in a different type of way. I think the coaching shined through too in this game, and a lot of those, inbounds plays and adjustments during the game, in-game adjustments. You're seeing a lot of that. Hoiberg and obviously, is it Lenzner or Lenzer, the assistant who I think is getting some national recognition as an assistant now, and they're pushing the right buttons this year for sure.
Yeah, it felt like I feel like sometimes I struggle with this. Like, I feel like this team might be better defensively than last year, but then, the 3-point statistics, obviously are horrendous this year against, but at times I feel like this team is better equipped defensively. I think of, Raleigh in there, much better defender than like Casey was last
Yep.
year. So at time, and I think we're better equipped inside this year to defend. Like I think Rink sometimes last year would struggle to defend bigger guys. So I think there's maybe a little bit of give and take with offense and defense. Like last year, you'd have the flashy like Casey or Rink or whoever it may be, like blow up the stats, but I think the basketball looks a little bit differently this year. I was thinking about that the other day too. Like, is last year's team better than this year's team? And to me, it's like, on paper, maybe, but I think when you look at the actual basketball, I don't know if it's significantly different. And the quad one, and I forget who tweeted it out, but the quad one, the quad two wins are like pretty similar to last year right now. And quad 3 and quad 4, like we haven't lost any bad games. So I don't know. It's like, to me, it's similar. And I think obviously like down the stretch here, how these last, handful of games play out is going to be like really what determines the success or lack thereof of the season.
I mean, you could make a case that their resume is just as good, if not even a little bit better than last year at this point, because of how many ranked teams they've beaten. You just had that skid right in the middle. If they don't lose to Rutgers or USC, just pick one. You're like, okay, this is kind of the same team. Yeah. But it was because you had 6 in a row that I think even I was just like, how do you recover from that? Mike, I'm curious, you as a coach, that Iowa game, I didn't expect them to win, but then I didn't expect them to lose the way that they did. I think that game didn't hurt them in terms of metrics whatsoever, but I think it did hurt them psychologically. And so I'm curious what your thoughts are. Way.
And I think it took them a little bit of like, clearly they got punched in the face and it took them a little bit of time to kind of recover from that. But I mean, you could tell in that Illinois game, like right off the bat, they were playing with that level of intensity that like we've seen from Hoiberg teams before that seemed to be lacking there for a little bit. So to me, it was kind of they lost their confidence. They lost their swagger a little bit, and it took them a little bit of time to recover. But like, props to Fred. Like he clearly didn't lose the locker room during that skid. Like they're continuing to press and push forward, and they're playing better basketball again for sure.
Hey, so I was thinking this the other day. What do you think when it comes to selection time? Does a 6-game losing streak, does that factor in anywhere in selection? I mean, obviously, I know it's not like a statistical thing, but you're looking at eye test stuff and body of work. Like, is a team going to get say we end up winning 6, or let's say, what do we need? 6 more. We get to 20 wins.
Yep.
Is a 6-game losing streak going to hurt you? Or
I think I texted you this on Saturday night. What I was actually just reading about it, right where we were texting. What I'm learning, because I'm still learning, it's been a few years now that I'm really learning, like, what is this committee looking at? Don't lose at home and don't lose by more than 20 on the road.
Yeah.
Like those are the 2 big things. And Nebraska has lost at home, and we've gotten blown out 3 times on the road. But now it's like, okay, but now you're making up for it because Illinois' net was 10. Think about that. And then you beat a ranked team. They were 16th. I think Oregon's net was like 30 or 33, but then you beat a ranked team on the road. So I think those things start to offset when you're just talking about, okay, what do the analytics say? What's the metrics? It's like, if you win out at home now and you beat one of Northwestern, Penn State, or who's another road game? Washington tomorrow. If you win one of those and you win out at home, you're probably you're gonna be in.
Yeah. Well, and you look at just and I'm sure the difficulty of this conference is going to be factored in too. A lot of teams we thought we broke UCLA when we beat them. They went on a 4-game losing streak, and now all of a sudden they're climbing back, and they've gotten hot. So same with Creighton. I know not in our conference, but we thought Creighton was down and out, and they've had a nice little run. So
Creighton, it was dark for them for a while, right? And
Yeah.
and I was kind of like, come on, like you got to start winning, help out our resume. I think all fan bases worry about like we can't have that losing streak, but then every other fan base looks at that school and they're like, you'll be fine. Like you're going to be in, but for your own school, you're like, no, we can't have that. That's just not the way it works. It's long season. I should have talked myself off the ledge. But I think because like, let's actually talk about the basketball they're playing. We talked about Bryce and Jawan, but I mean, can they keep up that pace tomorrow night? Because the way they were playing during that 6-game losing streak was not good. It was just bad basketball. And for these last 2 games, you're like, my gosh, you look like a Sweet 16 team.
Yeah. You know what I think helps these road trips like this, especially like out here to the West Coast, like I would think that some of the momentum is going to carry over from the Oregon game because they stayed out here.
You're staying out there.
Yeah. Like, and we saw what they did in Hawaii, and I think there's just that camaraderie a little bit where you're in enemy territory, you're far from home, and I think the team comes together. So I like our odds tomorrow night better than if we had lost to Oregon. I like carrying, this carryover in my mind, and then not to mention the quality of opponent we're playing. So I think
Washington is not good.
Yeah.
I think too, from an energy standpoint, tomorrow night is more important than the next 2 games because they need to just bring their own energy tomorrow, take care of business on the road, and then you get 2 games at home against a little bit better of an opponent. So like tomorrow night, I hate to say it, it feels like one of those trap games where it's like you've just come off 2 good wins, you've played some good basketball, like at times teams will get complacent and they'll have that letdown spot against a team that has nothing to lose. Like I was looking at Washington a little bit. They've won 2 games in the last month.
Yeah.
This team is not going to play with pressure tomorrow night. Like they're just going to maybe come out and fold instantly, or they might come out and just play free and loose. And those types of situations are nerve wracking.
Yep.
Let's not forget, I'm bringing some energy. So
yes, you're going.
Bring it all.
You will be there, and then bring us a report back afterwards. So I'm happy you get to go. Where'd you get your seats?
So we're gonna be looking down the sideline on the Husker side, bench side. Okay. So I'll be in row 14. So kind of looking right at Hoiberg,
nice.
Thing on the court. So
nice.
Yeah.
Good seats. Yeah, I saw that quite a few of them were still available.
Yeah. So I saw their average attendance this year in basketball, 6,700, which for a team that's 11-10 isn't.
That's actually way more than I thought.
Yeah.
There's no way they have that many people at a game every night.
That seems a little inflated.
It does. Yeah.
Tickets purchased?
This is average attendance according to on their website, university website. So
yeah, that's fake.
We'll see. I will report back.
Yeah. Can you count people? That'd be great.
Yeah, I will.
All right. Well, so what I'm watching, what I want to hear what you guys are watching for tomorrow night. What I'm watching for is the intensity. And then on offense, don't settle for threes. I mean, we kind of talked about that, but I'm kind of the opinion. I only want 3 guys shooting threes. It's Bryce, it's Connor, it's Sam. I know some people online would say, "Oh, Burke." I'm like, okay, he's okay, but I think Burke brings other things to the table rather than his 3-point shooting.
Raleigh, eh?
Well, yeah. Well, if he's guarded, if he's not being guarded, don't shoot.
Yeah.
So,
hold on to the ball.
Like props to him. Like he had a great game last night. Like last night,
I don't think he missed a shot, did he?
He didn't miss a shot.
100%.
Best game of the year, offensively, defensively, the whole package. I mean, I like Aaron Eulis. He had 2 turnovers to start the second half, and he never came back in the game.
Yep.
And so I think Fred's at this point where like, hey, just like, Matt Rule in football, you can't turn the ball over. You're not going to play. We can't keep doing this. So,
yeah.
So Andrew, you're going, I'm curious what you're looking for from the team tomorrow night.
Yeah, well, I think there's an interesting it's a basketball element here, but we essentially did a player swap. Don't forget Braden. Oh, is it
Wilhelm Breidenbach. Breidenbach.
I
Yeah.
was going to say Wilhelm Bach, but yeah, Wilhelm Breidenbach, and then we have their center, from last year. So
yeah.
So interesting little player swap there. I think Breidenbach's averaging like 6 a game. He gets in. He gets in a few minutes off the bench, but
will Mia play?
I think he will a little. I guess I don't know. Obviously, like personnel wise, what their leading scorer is a forward, 6'8" forward. So, do we want to put a little more size on him? I don't know how he scores essentially, but the threes. I think they average. They're 32% from three.
So pretty low.
Averaging 6 made a game. So I think we keep them on their average and we win, but don't let them go for 11 or 12. So,
gosh, yeah. Mike, your quick thoughts?
Yeah, perimeter shooting, not great for them. So I think this is kind of one of those teams that shoots the ball inside out, which we match up well with. So as Andrew said, that 6'8" forward, great. He's from England, actually. Great. Ozober, I believe is how you say his last name. I was watching an interview of him earlier. Very, very English. Very, yeah. But so I'm interested to see how we guard him. If we put Morgan on him or who they decide to go with. But I like our chances. I really think it comes down to just the effort and intensity. We are a more talented team than them. So as long as we just go out there and execute, we'll win the game. That's what it comes down to.
Agree.
Yeah, and you mentioned Morgan. Can he stay out of foul trouble too? I think he tends to get sticky tackle called on him, and he gets frustrated a little bit. And we keep him in the rotation.
Agree. I mean, he's out. We know why he's in the game. He's in the game to score points and facilitate on offense, not in the game for defense. And I think you can see that in the way that he plays. You're not going to change that in the last 9 games of his career. But stay out of foul trouble. So, all right, let's transition to, we'll want to talk football, but I'm just curious. We haven't talked since John Cook announced his retirement. So let's go there first. I did not live through the anxious 21 minutes that everybody else felt when they were on social media between John Cook announcing his retirement and then Danny Busboom Kelly being announced as the new coach. Was eating dinner, and my wife's watch started buzzing because of a family thread. And we're like, she's like, John Cook's retiring. And then like 5 minutes later, I got on Twitter, like, oh, well, they already hired Danny, so we're good to go. Yeah. But I mean, just quick thoughts. Like people said that this was like the biggest news story in Husker sports since Tom Osborne retired. And I'm curious if you guys think that's true.
Ooh. I mean, it probably depends who you talk to. I think for us Dylan Raiola committee, last year was probably for a lot of
Scott Frost being hired would be right there.
Yeah, that was up there. We managed to, we're off-season champs 10 years in a row now. So there's always something football related that feels just as big. But it was cool. I watched the press conference actually twice. I watched it once by myself and once with my wife. And it just, it was cool to see that side of John Cook that, you see kind of this stoic, Osborne, Saban type figure out there. Yeah. But then in that press conference, you just saw a man that was emotional and excited and grateful.
That's cool.
All those things at once. So that was really fun to see. And how the university handled it sounds like about as ideal as you could hope for. So
he told that story about Danny when he moved her from setter to libero. And, when she kind of looked at him and she was like, F you. And I do not know Danny well, but we were classmates. My cousin played volleyball with Danny, and they were both named Danny. And so we were same major. So we had a bunch of classes together, and I can hear her in my head saying that to John Cook. And it's just one of those things where you're like, when you get a little insight into somebody's personality and like how feisty, how passionate they are, you're like, that's what makes people great coaches, right? It's what makes people successful. So I'm excited. I don't think Nebraska is going to miss a beat. I mean, the last time we had a coach take over, we went, 35-0 and won the whole thing with John Cook when he took over. So it'd be great.
I forget who mentioned this on Twitter, but she has to be one of, if not the most qualified candidate that's ever been hired at Nebraska. It's not, there's her track record is proven at Louisville. So that's pretty remarkable.
I love what Dannon said. He's like, even if she wasn't an alum and a native, she should be the one that we go after. Because you think okay, Tom Osborne, nope. Frank Solich, nope. Dave Van Horn, nope. Will Bolt, nope. I mean, you couldn't even say Fred Hoiberg because Danny's coached in 2 national championship games.
Yeah. And Fred was just fresh off being fired by the Bulls, right?
Yep,
so
right.
It's
Matt Rule, nope. I mean, you could go down the list of coaches we've hired. It's nobody is as qualified for their position.
Yeah, it's like losing an Osborne, but replacing it with a coach has been to the playoff 2 years in a row, the last 2 years or something.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of similar to the Frost takeover that went. Let's hope this doesn't go any way like that did. But he was coming off a self-proclaimed national title and everything that happened there. But
huge that they kept the 2 assistants in Reyes and Hunter. I think it's going to help the team gel and it's going to make it feel seamless, I think. So congrats to John Cook. You deserve it. Right off into the sunset, Coach Cowboy, and hope we see him back at the Devaney soon. So, all right, let's talk Husker football here for the last half of the show. A lot of news. 2 big things are Rocco Spindler committed to Nebraska, got another offensive lineman, and we have a new special teams coordinator. So where do you guys want to start?
Special teams coordinator.
Let's do it. Okay.
Exciting stuff.
Do you guys this is the missing piece, right?
Yeah.
This is what we've been missing.
I know you can joke about special teams and the important. I mean, you could argue that special teams cost us maybe 2 wins this year, if not more. So yeah, I not tongue in cheek. I think this was legitimately the missing piece for us.
All right. So I got a stat to throw out at you. You probably see this. You know where I'm going. In Mike Ekeler's time as the special teams coordinator at Tennessee, so 21 to 24, Tennessee gained 1,320 punt return yards. That's about 25 a game. And they only gave up 162. That's three a game. Now, do you guys want to guess what Nebraska did in that span?
I'll bet we returned it.
Let's do per game because I don't have the totals in front of me. So do per game from 21 to 24. What were our punt return yards per game?
I'll say half, 13 a game.
I almost guess it's less than that.
Less than that.
Is it more?
4.5.
Yeah. I mean, it's fair catch after fair catch.
Basically nothing. Okay, so do you then guess how many yards we gave up per return a game?
18.5.
Lower than that.
Yeah, say 15.
Almost 13, 12.6. So you're losing 8 to 9 yards, right? Every punt. And so it's pretty remarkable when you think about 25 yards a game gained compared to 3 yards a game lost. And that's just punt return. I didn't get into kick return, field goals. They were decent. A lot of times that's just, do you have a good kicker? But it reminded me of this quote from Jim Tressel, right? The punt is the most important play in football. We can agree or disagree, but I think what we see is Nebraska is finally going to start taking that play seriously. They're going to start taking kicking seriously. They're going to start taking blocking on special teams seriously, and it's about time. It's about time.
Kirk Ferentz agrees.
He does.
Yep.
But if Kirk Ferentz had Dana Holgerson, they'd probably win a whole lot more games.
Yeah. That's where it gets exciting. Yep.
The beautiful thing about it, though, is like, Iowa has built their program identity and culture around like defense and special teams. And we don't it'd be fantastic if Ekeler brought in like a top special teams unit in the country. But even if we're slightly above average nationally, like, can you imagine what that's going to do to us win probability wise for each game? Like, it's going to be remarkable.
Well, you think of the miscues last year that were just egregious, not just missed kicks, but blocks. I mean, we had 10 kicks blocked, whether punts or field goals. I think the stat was that Ekeler in his time there gave up one kick of any kind blocked. So obviously we know that cost us a game or two last year. So
I'm curious what you guys think about this at the press conference on Saturday. Rule said he didn't think the issue was scheme. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think he's trying to cover up and just, brush it under the rug? And I'm like, if it's the scheme, I don't know why you fired the guy you fired. But in my opinion, I 100% agree with what he's saying. I think special teams is so much more about culture and I agree.
And knowing your job. And think about how many different types of plays there are for special teams. We're talking about maximum 10 different schemes that you're running within it, right? Within types of plays. Like, to me, it comes down to execution and the culture,
focus,
and the culture. And Ekeler has built this like nationally recognized special teams unit, and like, Tennessee was known for not using starters on special teams. Like, they were not using the best players on their team. And everything that I've heard about this guy has been about his intensity, going back to when he played at Kansas State and was like a special teams guy, cutting his teeth on special teams. Like, I think the culture and the energy that this guy is going to bring to that unit is what matters the most, more than can he coach punt block, can he coach, punt return, things like that. Like, the person he is, to me, is more important than what he's going to scheme up, for sure.
And then I think also ability to adjust in game. I mean, maybe there was something missing. Maybe Foley wasn't seeing something that happened that needed an adjustment, just whether it's move a blocker from this side to that side, whatever it might be. I would hope that Ekeler's going to be a little more well-versed there too, because Rule would always say, we're coaching it fine. There's nothing wrong with our coaching. There's nothing wrong with, we practice it well all week, and then the game happens. So like you said, Mike, it's culture, it's mental. Yeah, it's exciting. He's a ball of energy. We know that. We remember the 4-foot jumps, on the sideline. So that's all exciting. I know he's a little older, but I'm sure he can still get up.
I tell you what, I saw some pictures of him at Tennessee getting up there, and he's in his 50s now.
Yeah.
He was kind of the choice all along, right? Like, he was the name, the one name that kept coming up. He's from Nebraska. Went to Blair High School. I think somebody had said, why didn't he go to Nebraska? I was like, well, he was an undersized linebacker from Blair in a period when Nebraska was stacked with linebackers. Yeah. Right. Late 80s, early 90s. So I don't know that it's anything personal. And obviously he's coached here before, but he was just the one consistent name that kept coming up, and Nebraska got their guy.
Yeah.
To me, it's a bonus that he's from here. I could care less, to be honest with you. But like you said, Mike, I mean, they're a top 10, top 15 special teams unit, and that's who you want to go get. Same thing with Danny Busboom Kelly, right? Like, regardless of where she's from, regardless of where he's from, he's the guy that you make the call to when you need a special teams coach.
Yeah, I feel really good with where the football staff is at. Some people could be a little bit hesitant with John Butler at DC. I always have said, like, as long as Matt Rule's the head coach, I'm never going to be worried about the defense. Yep. We got Dana Holgerson in, Mike Ekeler. I feel like our assistant coaches at the positions, we're at a really good spot there. Like, I feel really good with where the coaching staff's at. And the thing I've said all along is, like, Matt Rule could have sat back with the OC job and let Satterfield finish out the year. You know, he could have let maybe Ed Foley have another year to get it right. But, like, he has shown a sense of urgency that I did not know that he had. And it is absolutely fantastic to see him, like, just put his nose in there and be like, we're going to make changes and get this right instantly. Love it.
We're always, as fans, analyzing the initial hires that a coach has and brings in, and yeah, props to him. We've talked about this just to adjust to, you know, after 2 seasons, and it's kind of like finally now you feel like they're spending the money, you feel like they're getting some names, you know, whether it's the guy they pulled from the Chiefs that is, you know, from everything we've heard, has got quite a reputation as a leader on that squad, and look at what they're doing. But Holgerson and, you know, even Butler, what he comes from and what he did in the NFL. Right. Yeah, it just feels like we upped our game, you know, with this assistant pool. So
I think something that shouldn't be forgotten is the average age of Nebraska's coaching staff has gone up considerably in the last 6 months.
Thanks, Phil Snow. Dana,
Butler obviously being a little older than Tony White. And then you hire, you know, Ekeler, who's in his 50s. I mean, to your point, Andrew, we look at the initial hires and people were like, it's a young staff. It's an inexperienced staff, and Rules hiring former players and guys who, are kind of, they're cutting their teeth here at Nebraska, and that's not the place for it. And he did. He learned his lesson, made quick changes, and now you have guys who have significant experience coaching football.
Yep.
And in a conference where, you know, probably with the SEC, it's not about I'm not about comparing conferences here, but it's just like one of the premier coaching conferences in the country. You have the best coaches, you have the best coordinators. Any one of the coordinators on a Big Ten team could probably go coach their own team. So it's time to stop messing around, and you go get the best. And that's usually guys who are older and they've been doing it for 10, 15, 20, 30 years.
I love it. We've got coordinators as position coaches. You know, you look at DBs. Yeah. UCF's offensive coordinator. You look at Phil Snow, former defensive coordinator. Like, the trickle down is pretty impressive.
It's been. Go ahead, James.
You got 2 head coaches on staff, and it seems like one of them is pretty comfortable being an assistant coach.
Yep.
You know, a coordinator. So
it's been fun to, like, see Matt Rule's, like, I don't know if coaching philosophy is the right term or what, but he's evolved as a coach throughout these, like, first 2 seasons. You know, I remember when he came in and he was asked about, like, the transfer portal and said, you know, like, we want to kind of build through development and we're going to stick with high school recruiting as our main form. And I wouldn't say he's completely gone away from that, but you've seen a little bit more of a sense of urgency to, like, let's get this roster right, constructed the right way with talent. Like, I think Sean Callahan on one of his podcasts said, like, 1/3 of our starters next year are going to be guys that weren't on the roster last year, like transfer portal edition. So I feel like he's on the fly kind of adjusting. And I like that to a certain extent. I think it's important that when he's able to, like, admit that he maybe made a mistake or that he needs to adjust something. I think that's what good coaches do. And he seems to be doing that in real time right now.
Yep. Pretty impressive. So let's talk about the portal and Spindler committing. Just curious what you guys think this does for Nebraska's run game in the fall. He's an interior guy, could play center even. I think they have a few options at center, but what do you guys think this does for just for the line, for our, you know, I mean, with a new offense essentially, but how does it help give you confidence going into the season?
I like adding a vet. I mean, I won't pretend to know what he did personally on the field last year, other than, anecdotally, he started it at a team that became this close to winning a national championship. So big body, 325, 6'3", I think. I like what he tweeted out when he committed was rule, RHULE, number one, run the damn ball. And you saw that, I think Notre Dame had a hard edge to him this year. I mean,
I did.
He was one of the guys that was really riling guys up pregame. They had that. They kind of had that mindset. We're going to run it down your throat.
Yep.
Now we don't have our quarterback isn't going to run it down your throat. But I think he's going to bring some attitude. He's going to bring a veteran experience, obviously big game experience. So
I think too, like with the addition of Spindler, like my personal favorite thing about it is now we have options. And the sad reality of offensive line playing football is like, you're not going to probably end the season with the same 5 guys that you started with,
Yeah.
And now I think there's kind of 6 guys in the conversation. Like I think Pritchett probably at left tackle, Gatula probably at right. You've got Spindler maybe at center, maybe at guard. You got Justin Evans maybe at guard, maybe at center. Latovsky's in the conversation. Corcoran's in the conversation. Prohaska maybe at, backing up right tackle, potentially left tackle. So there is depth there. You got Sam Sledge at center too. So there's depth there that when things, when injuries happen, because they do in football, like you're not left with your, some walk on or whatever it may be. Like you have options there of quality backups that can help and contribut.
Is Corcoran coming back?
Yes.
Okay.
From everything I've heard, he gets
a medical red shirt.
He had surgery. I can't remember if he's the one that had shoulder. One of them had hamstring. One of them had shoulder. I can't remember which one he had.
Okay.
But yeah. Well, yeah. I mean,
Teddy,
now you're not.
And then Teddy's coming back. Yep.
Yeah, Teddy. Hopefully he can stay. Man, talk about a guy who the upside that ended up unfortunately not panning out, but maybe it's not too late. But yeah, I think with an addition like this too, you're not having to rely on, okay, maybe there's a freshman that can. Do we got to bring up a freshman this year?
Yep.
Really, you don't have to worry about that, I think, at all. You also have Grant Bricks that I've heard can play some guard or tackle as well, and he was obviously very highly touted coming in. So yeah, the depth feels good.
Agree. And it will be exciting to see them in the spring, even though there won't be a spring game. It sounds like so. Maybe they'll do a skills competition. I'd love to see the offensive line say like, hey, fans, you can come and try to rush Dylan and watch the offensive line face to face. I don't know. Let's get creative with the spring game.
I'll let you try that out. I'll stand and watch.
I'd do it. I'll do it without pads on, and he doesn't have to have pads on, and we'll be just touch football. But
fans will show out, and I don't know what you guys feel about losing the spring game.
Makes sense.
I wouldn't be going anyway, but if I lived there, I'd be disappointed. But you're right; it makes sense, and I think for the greater good, we'll take it as fans. I think most of us. But I think the other thing, talking about Matt Rule and his ability to adapt, he's also a brilliant marketer. I think he wants to market Nebraska and his players and all of that. I think he'll have something up his sleeve, or somebody in the program are going to do something cool that I think we'll all kind of be impressed at. So,
yeah, I agree.
I think it hurts the fans more than it does the team,
For sure. I don't really care. I mean, I go to the spring game, usually take my kids because it's cheap. They get a fun experience. But honestly, if you were to let kids go down in the field and meet players like they do at Fan Day, that's just as cool for kids. Yeah. I know fans, maybe they don't get to come to a game. They come in from out of town, and I get it. But as a fan of the team who wants them to win and wants them to keep the best players, I will sacrifice a spring game if they win and, in the fall. So to me, it's whatever.
It had been really trending towards, pretty vanilla offense and defense too.
Oh, it's been horrible.
It hasn't been like real revealing last year was fun, exciting with Raiola, but prior to that, it was like the entertainment factor as far as the football went was not great. So,
I mean, and it's not just that. So like, even as a fan going to the games the last few years since we live in Lincoln, the weather usually sucks. The concessions usually run out. You can't pick your seats, and so you get stuck usually in the south end zone, which has no bathrooms. So like, it's not like a great experience. If I wanted to just watch, okay, what kind of plays are they running and who gets to come in the game, I'd rather just sit home and watch it on the Big Ten network. But we go because kids like to go. I probably wouldn't just go to the spring game by myself or with my wife. We go for kids. So from a football perspective, from a fan experience perspective, it's like, it's not like a great fun environment.
Yeah.
But that's just me. I know some people, they love it. That's great. More power to you. It's not fun.
Yep.
Especially when it's April and it's 25 degrees and the wind is blowing and you're like, what are we doing out here right now? Watching touch football. So,
or it's 90 and you're getting baked in the sun,
or it's 90. I think it actually was hot and windy last year. So
yeah.
I always used to get a kick out of like the risers and fallers after the spring game. It's like, really, like that third string wide receiver that caught 2 touchdowns. Like unfortunately, I don't think we're going to see him in the fall. Like it wasn't that deep.
Yeah. It's like, this cannot be a major data point for us to use to measure how well this team is going to perform in August. It just can't be. So, and it's just that way for probably 10 to 12 years, actually, where it's just, it's just a fun practice.
Yeah.
So, or a not fun practice, but all right. Before we sign off, anything else you guys have on your minds?
Oh, I mean, certain former player, depending on how you feel about it, took shots at the Huskers.
Oh my gosh.
Tallahassee.
Oh my goodness.
What do you guys think? We got
maybe you brought that up. So I actually tweeted about it, and it was a really innocuous tweet. It was just like, this is ... not a good look. 100,000 people later, I'm like, what? Damon Benning is commenting in there, defending James Williams.
Yeah.
And I'm like, usually when you say no offense, it's followed by an offense. And it would have been really easy to just not mention your former team.
Yeah.
That, like you said, Mike, we interacted a little bit. You were like, there's a lot of layers to this. He probably wouldn't have had a chance without Nebraska. And you never burn a bridge because you never know if you have to go back.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do it. And what I had said was, hey, if I'm the PR guy or if I'm a coach or the life skills, director, and I'm working with players, I'd be like, James, you just can't do that. You just can't. And that's not how life works.
Yeah.
I get it. He's 20. 20-year-olds are also making a lot of money now to play football, and their public persona and public interviews, if that's going to be a part of the deal, which it is, then your words matter and you need to be careful with what you say. So that's my take.
Boy, and I tell you what, like, if that would have came from any other program other than Florida State, you could argue that Jay Norvell doesn't have a job after this next season. So I don't know. It's interesting. I'm going to be following them a little bit closer now than I previously anticipated.
Mike, they were 2-10, Mike.
2-10. Added Thomas Castellanos from Boston College at the quarterback position, who some may argue is a step down from DJU from last year. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens in Tallahassee. I'm intrigued now after those comments because what his story, James Williams coming out of high school, like Nebraska gave him that shot and he prospered from it. And to say that, it's a little bit discouraging. And like you said, I get that they're young adults, but that felt like a little disrespect, a little. So.
Well, it's been also you're a role player on that team that you're essentially saying didn't have the talent. Like it's not like he was
Yeah.
an every down player
Yeah.
that we couldn't keep off the field. So yeah, he had great stretches, great streaks, but I don't know. Is he playing for Florida State if not for Terrence Knighton, you know? So
Yep.
yeah, it'll be interesting to watch a little bit.
See what
Had
happens.
to bring that up, Andrew. Had to bring that up. All right. Okay. Well, we will end it there. I have a lot to say about this topic. Actually, like there were so many comments on my really stupid, just kind of sidebar tweet that I was like, I just can't respond to all this. I just can't. Again, the DB, like I appreciate Damon Benning, was like, I'm not going to get into this right now. And so I just have a lot of thoughts and just okay, whatever.
So
we just had to bring that up.
We're all praying for first round playoff game, Florida State in Lincoln.
Wouldn't that be something?
Ooh, yeah. Yeah.
Mike's like, there's no way Florida State's going to win 5 games.
Yeah. I got a lot of thoughts on that. But yeah, we'll save that for another time.
Over under on Florida State wins.
I'll take the
5.5.
I would have said it at 6.5, and I would have taken
6.5. Okay,
under,
I thought about 6.5.
I'm gonna give
baiting you.
I'll give him 7. We'll give Tony White some credit, but yeah,
we'll see. All right. Okay, we'll sign off there. This has been good. Always appreciate you guys. Andrew, have fun at Husker basketball tomorrow.
Yeah, look for our over on our Substack. I'll have some game thoughts, maybe a little bit of game analysis, but overall atmosphere,
great
crowd noise.
Make sure to DM Andrew and blame him if we lose tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Yes, and his son that you guys weren't loud enough.
I'll compare their concessions food to Runza's and Valentino's. So
yeah, if they have any kind of local, ethnic style food like a Runza, but for Seattle, I really want to know.
I was not impressed at the volleyball game that I went to early in the year. It was like pretzels and cheese, like everybody has that. But
aren't you in the same arena?
Yeah. So we'll see.
So
I mean, maybe they change it up based on the sport. But
all right. Well, everybody, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching, listening. We appreciate you, and as always, go Big Red.